Welkom by Ons Goue Jare met die uwe André. Ons Goue Jare is 'n gereelde weeklikse halfuur hier op die gunsteling radiostasie vir ouer mense en hulle kinders en kleinkinders, sodat hulle ook kan verstaan wat die uitdagings is van ouer word. Vandag se spyskaart is baie interessant. Ons gesels eerstens in profiel met Jacob Skhosana van die South African Older Persons Forum. En wat hy te sê het, is nou nogal belangrik vir ons almal om te weet. Om ouer te word is nie 'n maklike storie nie. En ons doen dit te dikwels in isolasie van mekaar en ook in kulturele isolasie. Daarom is Jacob Skhosana aan die beurt in die program vandag. Nou hier is 'n heerlike verrassing. Ook in die middel van die program in ons onderhoud van die week gesels ons met Lance James en hy praat ook oor die kuns van ouer word. Ons sluit die program weer af in ons mediese gleuf met Ken Mathis wat sal gesels oor die sielkundige uitdagings van ouer word. Dit is Profiel. Profiel kyk elke week na organisasies wat daarop ingestel is om ons ouer mense te help. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Mr. Jacob Skhosana, the National Coordinator of the SA Older Persons Forum, to our golden years. Hello there, Mr. Skhosana.
Morning, André. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Could you give us an overview of what the Older Persons Forum is about?
The South African Older Persons Forum, André, it's all about advocacy, all about lobbying, and articulation of the issues that affect older persons. In essence, what I'm trying to say here is that we look at the current policies and the application of those policies, and we then engage with all spheres of government and the private sector, really putting into the fore all the challenges that are faced by our senior citizens in the country.
I was looking at SA statistics the other day, and there are some really worrying statistics about the status of older people in our country.
Andre, the statistics, what it shows is that, yes, as a country, we've got these good policies in place, which is good for us. But where we've got challenge is to translate those policies into action. Hence, we've got such a horrible, if one may put it that way, statistics in terms of the abuse that is experienced by our senior citizens.
Yeah. Also, physical abuse. The fate of older people seems to be really up in the air.
Definitely it is, Andre, and it is very much disturbing that, there is quite a high level of even physical abuse towards our senior citizens. Yeah. And one looks at it, one follows these incidents that one sees on print media, on radio. It's very, very much alarming. And I think as a forum, as a national organization, we still have got, together with the Department of Social Services, because that's the custodian of the Act for senior citizens, we still have got a long way in raising awareness on the rights and the dignity of senior citizens. Because there is this trend that says to us, look, immediately when you go to retirement, as you get older, your value also decreases, of which it's not the case. If you look just specifically on Act 13 of 2006, that Act was specifically developed to complement the rights as articulated in the Bill of Rights in our Constitution. But I think where we come short is a well-coordinated, nationally focused awareness campaign in really articulating the issues that are faced by older persons, specifically the physical abuse.
And does your work then really center on empowering politicians and NGOs to better understand the challenges and to better come up with solutions to those challenges?
Andre, you wouldn't have put it quite right. That's the core of our business, because even in some spheres of government, in some government departments, you'll find that even the policy makers and policy implementers are not quite versatile with the policy of the older persons policy. They are not quite versatile with the act governing older persons policy. There is this misunderstanding that if you're talking older person, everybody just thinks social development. But that's not the case, because the challenges faced by older person affect each and every government department. It affects each and every person in the country. It affects the private sector. It's everybody's issue. Older person are one of the most vulnerable among our societies.
Yeah.
And there is that strong focus when it comes to their issues. Yes, the act is there. Yes, the policies are there. But when it comes to implementation by other departments, by the private sector, we are found lacking on that one. So there is this huge need on a nationally focused, strongly focused awareness campaign, so that each and every so that we ensure that each and every department, each and every person in the country is aware on the rights of the senior citizen.
How much success are you achieving?
It's a very difficult question to answer in terms of statistics and in terms of percentage, André. We're still focusing on establishing the structures on ground. We've got your provincial structures, we've got district structures, we've got our local municipality structures, but we're still lacking a little bit when it comes to the local structures, where it matters most, but we are getting there. But I will say where we've already launched the structures on the ground, we are seeing quite an improvement and awareness, because people start talking about it. We now hearing more and more conversation around the rights of senior citizens. We now and again hearing more and more other persons themselves articulating their rights, really putting their right on the forefront and demanding that their rights be respected. The policies that are there should be correctly implemented. For an example, your indigenous policies, it should, older person should not be asking when it comes to those policies, because they are there. They should just be given, and then those policies should be applied, and older person should be told as and when they come into contact with whoever is on the front desk.
Dit was meneer Jacob Skhosana van die Suid-Afrikaanse Ouer Persone Forum met interessante inligting oor hulle werksaamhede. En nou is dit tyd vir ons onderhoud van die week. En dit is Lance James wat gereed staan om met ons te gesels. What a great pleasure to welcome an old friend and colleague, Lance James, to our golden years. Lance, it's lovely to hear your voice.
And it's so nice to hear your voice too, André. What a pleasure to receive a call from you. Thank you.
Lance, you've had a glorious career. I remember years and years ago, you and I worked together on Radio Highveld. And I remember being terribly worried about you when you decided to resign from the SABC and start a new career. And how wrong I was to be worried.
André, I have been very blessed. I have lived a charmed life, including my SABC days and being with you on Radio Highveld. You know, André, that you actually started my radio career, my on-air radio career.
Good heavens.
I was already there as a music compiler, etc. But you started to use me doing Housewives Requests, I think it was, in the mornings when you were presenting the show.
At 11 o'clock.
Yeah, when you were busy or away on leave or something, and then you asked me to stand in. And then I also got the job with Min Shaw doing Saturday night requests on Highveld, and then after that Springbok Radio. So you were very instrumental in my radio career.
How
and
wonderful.
I've never forgotten that, André, never.
That's so flattering, and it's so wonderful, and it gives me great pleasure to hear you say that. I remember that I've always been hugely impressed with your talent and your easy way of dealing with people. Look at how you're chatting to our Golden Years listeners here. It's a wonderful talent. It's a gift, isn't it, Lance?
for which I thank the Lord every day. Yes, as I say, I've led this charmed life. I don't know what I do. You're saying flattering words to me, and I just get up in front of people and I talk to them all behind a microphone, and as I say, I've led a charmed life.
Yeah, but you see, Lance, there is a secret to being a good communicator, and that secret lies in being interested in the people that you're communicating with.
You know, I think, yeah, now, as you've actually explained it to me, I am interested in people, and I'm very interested in what I do when I walk out on a stage and I see smiles, and even tears.
Yeah.
Means so much to me, because it means that I'm communicating with people. I mean, that's what we do, André. We communicate with people, however one does it.
You're also contributing in perhaps a small way to changing lives for the better, filling people with positive vibes.
Well, I hope so. Thank you for putting it that way, but yes, I hope so.
Yeah, well, I believe that is so.
I do know in the years that I have been either on radio or on stage, André, I've received from memory now 3 letters. People who were planning to commit suicide on a particular day, and they heard a song of mine. And it made them realize that they would be achieving nothing by committing suicide. I've had 3 letters in the past. One lady had gone blind, and she said she had planned to take her life. And she heard a particular song of mine, and she wrote to me to say that I saved her life. And there'll be, as I say, 3 of those. So I hope I am contributing to something to people.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, you certainly are. I believe, Lance, that you can only serve God by serving people. And it is through that service that you get closer to God.
Well, it's very nicely put. Yes, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. Now, Lance, what have been some of the highlights of your career in your mind? If you had to write your autobiography now, what would be, say, the most important chapter?
André, it's difficult to answer that, because every time I walk out on stage, whether it's before 20 people or 2,000 people, that to me is a highlight. I'm doing what I want to do. The Lord has allowed me to do what I do on stage in all these years. So to me, every performance is a highlight. I think if one says be more specific, well, awards have been very nice through the years. I've received a number of awards which have been very uplifting and wonderful, that people have recognized something that I do and decided to give me an award for it. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
Awards. Some of the big shows we did. When I was still on Springbok Radio, we did a country show at the Rand show over Easter weekend in those days, where it was estimated we had 58,000 people. Now, that I think was the largest audience for our market. Yeah. So that was a highlight. Last year, a great honor to tour the country with my colleagues Tommy Dell, Barbara Ray, and Clive Bruce, to tour the country with Kenny Rogers, the American country music superstar. So that was a highlight. But I've had several on international. I did a summer season with Cliff Richard in England many years ago. I also toured, in fact, with Matt Monro, still today one of my favorite singers.
Mine too.
So yours too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those are all wonderful highlights. But as I say, repeating myself, but when I walk out in a small town and I see a few dozen people or a few hundred people, that is important to me. That is a highlight.
Yeah. Lance, I have been speaking to the people at Springbok Internet Radio.
Oh, yes.
And they refer to you as Lance.
Which is also nice. It's flattering.
Yeah, it is flattering, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Lance, what pushed you in the direction of country and western rather than ballads or blues or something else?
My first trip to America was in 1975, and I went there as a radio representative to get interviews with people in whatever genre of music they performed in, which was arranged here, that I would interview so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. And I went to Nashville, which is the home of country music, and I was able to meet a large number of people, including Dolly Parton, which that was a highlight meeting a lady like that. Yes, I've got a wonderful picture of her and myself together.
Yeah.
But she was the most wonderful person. And then also my wife Val was with me. At night we would go around to these honky-tonks and bars and pubs and listen to music, and some of them were fairly well known, and some of them weren't known at all, but I heard wonderful talent, and I started listening to the music, and I thought, but that's very nice. Then I realized, Andre, that Minshaw and myself as a duo, and also my own recordings that I've done through the years, I've included quite a number of country songs without really knowing that they were country songs, because in the early days we didn't put music into boxes. We just, if you liked a song, you would then record it, whatever it represented, And I didn't realize then that I had covered a number of country songs, and Min and I, quite a few we did together. That's when I started to realize I'd been doing country anyhow. Yeah. But I came back and I was very excited with the music I heard. Was country music. And we mentioned it at a meeting one day. I was on Springbok Radio then. And Jack Sibbett said to me, do you think, actually it was Jack Hobbs, if you remember Jack Hobbs.
Oh, very much so, yes.
Yes, Jack actually raised it at a meeting one morning. He said, I was telling him about my visit and who I'd heard and what I'd heard. And Jack said, I think country music would go down quite nicely on Springbok Radio. And Jack Sibbett turned to me and he said, do you think a show like that would hold? I said, well, let's try. And André, I'm told from the AMPS figures that came out, the next one, that within 3 weeks, the Sunday night listenership to Springbok Radio had tripled.
My goodness.
So, and that was and it changed my life. So I started, and then of course people would start calling me and say, could we have a concert with, say, Barbara Ray and Bobby Angel, Maury Gibson, Gene Rockwell, the people that were very popular in those days. And they were performing, but we didn't have country shows as such. There hadn't been any country shows. There were variety shows. In other words, a country singer could be alongside a comedian or a juggler, if you know what I mean, a variety show. But then the public started asking for shows by the people whose records they were listening to on my program, Keep It Country.
Yeah.
And that was in 1976, April 1976. And in April this year, the show will have been on the air for 40 years.
Wow. That was the year television was launched in South Africa.
Actually, I'd forgotten it. Yes, you're right. So that's how, and then, of course, this whole thing led to an explosion, and people started asking for concerts by these people. And today I'm honored, André, to say that we lost Gene Rockwell, we lost Maury Gibson, but most of those people that I mentioned in the early days are still with us and still touring with us.
Wonderful.
It's absolutely wonderful. As I said, we're so blessed, And Bobby Angel is now retired, although I've talked him out of that and coming to do a big show that we're putting together in June in Cape Town.
That's
so I've talked him into coming and doing a couple of songs on that with me, and which he's agreed to. So maybe that'll lead to more performances by him. But otherwise, we're all still going, The Lord is good to us.
Lance, you've had a wonderful career, and I would like to continue this conversation next week, if you wouldn't mind. But next week, I'd like to concentrate on the challenges of growing older. Would you be available for that?
I would certainly be available, and I look forward. It's wonderful to be chatting to you, André, and I look forward to a continuation of this session, yes.
Till next week. Thank you very much, Lance.
Thank you, André. Bye-bye.
En Lance het nie geweet ek gaan dit doen nie, maar sy pragtige vrou wel. Ek het baie van haar gedink. Sy was 'n besonder aangename mens. Het Lance onlangs ontval en hy het hierdie onvergeetlike lied 50 goue jare ter ere van haar opgeneem. Luister gerus daarna saam met my.
Die lewe gaan gou verby, in 'n oomblik vir jou en my. Ek sien in jou helder oë die sterre wat dans. My hart is so bly, daar's vrede in my. 50 goue jare het verby gegaan. Een is die silwer see, die liefde wat jy my gee. Twee is die kronkelpad waar die lewe loop. Drie is die diep van die vlamme die vuur. 50 goue jare het verby gegaan. Die uurglas van die tyd blyk nou ook steeds vir my. Jou roepstem by weer klink, al gaan jare verby. Jy bly in begeer van die soet en die suur. 50 goue jare het verby gegaan. Seisoene, hy kom en gaan. Ach, wie kan dit toch verstaan? En wie ken die groot geheim van die nieuwe maan? Maar as ons bly glo, draai die wiel weer na bo. 50 goue jare het verby gegaan. Ligte gaan af en aan, 'n klok in sy toren slaan. Die lewe die gaan maar weer sy gewone gang. Sonder 'n woord is ons somer oor. 50 goue jare het verby gegaan. Een is die silwer see, die lewe wat neem en gee. Twee is die eensaam pad waar die liefde loop. Drie is die diep van die vlamme die vuur. 50 goue jare het verby gegaan. Een is die silwer see, die liefde wat jy my gee. Twee is die kronkelpad waar die lewe loop. Drie is die diep van die vlamme die vuur. Wonderlike jare het verby gegaan.
Ons Goue Jare is 'n gereelde weeklikse halfuur hier op die gunsteling radiostasie. Vir ouer mense en hulle kinders en kleinkinders, sodat hulle ook kan verstaan wat die uitdagings is van ouer word. Vir sy gereelde gleef is dit Ken Mathis wat gereed staan om oor die sielkundige uitdagings van ouer word te gesels. What causes depression? First of all, what is it? And what causes it? And then how is it treated?
Well, depression isn't a disease. Like, we don't have viruses or bacteria or something like that in our bodies. Okay, it's not something that inhabits our body, but it is something which affects the brain. So there are two components. There's the medical component, the anatomical component, which is the brain and the function of the brain. And then, of course, there's the psychological component, which is how we think and feel, and what our thoughts are, and what our imaginations are, and what our feelings are. So that's the psychological component.
Yeah.
But depression, like most human things, is complicated. And different people call different feelings depression. People can misinterpret what they feel, and whatever they feel they can call depression. So many people who haven't grieved properly or suffering a loss may say they're feeling depressed. Actually, they're not depressed. They're grieving, and they haven't acknowledged it. Somebody once said to me, depression is just that we don't know how to express our feelings, which is so. I go along with it. The other thing about depression is it can often be a conglomeration of feelings like loss, sadness, anger, rejection, resentment, and ordinary pain from rejection, all bundled together and finding no way to express itself. Okay, there are no words to say all these things. So that depression is complicated. If you go to a doctor or to a psychiatrist and you say you're depressed, you're more likely than not to get antidepressant tablets. Now, they don't take the depression away, and they don't solve the cause of depression, but they do make life more tolerable and less painful. Okay, they may even make the depression bring down the extent of the depression, so that it's not really depression, but just not feeling too happy. Okay, and those medications, I'm not a doctor, so I just know a little bit about it. They act on 3 parts of the body, the brain. They work on the serotonin, the noradrenaline, and the epinephrine, okay, which is the same thing. There's another one which I've just forgotten. But those 3 things actually act on the part of the brain which makes us feel good about life. It's called feeling of well-being. Now, depression is a feeling of not well-being. Okay, so many, as I said, when we don't feel good, we often just say, "Well, I'm feeling depressed," because it's sort of acceptable to say I'm depressed. Yes, right. We'll take it so far. Any more? Do you want to know, André?
Well, is there such a thing as chronic depression? And if so, does it get worse as you grow older?
Well, again, to talk about depression and the sort of psychological aspects of the human mind is different from talking about the human mind as a medical concept. Okay, so chronic depression, there isn't such a thing really out there that's called chronic depression. If people are depressed for a long time, one can call it chronic. Chronic means it's lasting a long time. That's all it says. And people getting older usually don't. There's no real statistics that I know that show that older people get more depressed. They get more distressed about various things, about money, about loss, and all those sort of things. And those feelings can be interpreted as depression. But I wouldn't say genuine depression, which there is such a thing as genuine clinical depression, which I think is more to do with the function of the brain than the function of our thought processes. That does happen. And I don't think that occurs more often in older people. So I don't think if we're getting older and we feel down, we're depressed. We need to talk to someone and explain how we're feeling. One thing about human life is that when we feel something, we need to put words to it so that we can understand it. Now, there are many different feelings that we have, and perhaps you can classify feelings into 2 groups, those that feel good and those that feel bad. And for some people, things that feel bad may feel good for somebody else. So it's a complicated thing. And one can't sort of lay down rules about psychology as one can more or less lay down with medicine. When I deal with a human being, I have to find out that person's life or their background, what makes their reality. And that is different from everybody. Everybody has a different reality, have constructed their reality and their world and the way they understand things differently. Yeah. Whereas a medical person, if you have measles, one person's measles more or less exactly the same as another person's measles. In that sense, the medical and the psychological diagnosis.
Dit was Ken Mathis, wat volgende week weer terug sal wees by ons. So kom ons aan die einde van nog 'n episode van Ons Goue Jare. Dis André hier wat sê totsiens tot volgende week. Ons maak 'n afspraak om weer volgende week, selfde plek, selfde tyd op jou gunsteling radiostasie bymekaar te kom vir nog inligting oor die dinge wat ons almal behoort te weet. Ek het nuus vir jonger mense. Julle gaan ook ouer word, hoor. Tot dan, totsiens.